You can start to let it travel a bit more if you haven't already. Imagine the other 14 breaths in your rhythm. And if we're all in the room, we could hear that kind of echoing through the studio. And you can start to play with different rhythms in your feet if you haven't already. So trying to move your arms and maybe against them. So the upper body has this constant, and the lower body can be a little more erratic. And this is an energy gatherer, energy builder, so you can maybe feel that in your movement. And then you can start to let your arms go. And you can see if you can hold on to that rhythm, that sense of that rhythm with your breath. As your arms start to have their own path. Then can you start to feel as if you're actually trying to move the energy through your space? Like you're trying to move it through into your body and out, and also around your space. And then really believe that you're doing it. And sense that. You can start to gather it back in towards yourself. And let it start to come back towards your swinging arms. And shifting. You can start to come back towards your stillness with your body walking to keep the arms swinging. This last part, I want to try to do all together in the video, watching each other, and we'll just see how it goes. And that's fine if you just stay camera off. We can sense you, or you can be on. we're going to come back and just have an attempt to be together. And maybe we can't be together. We can see the time, the delay of time in between us. Have a moment of seeing if you can feel like you're at least with one person for a moment. And then we're just going to let this slowly dissipate down to nothing. We can take like a whole minute to do it. Until it's just your arms swinging almost like pendulum, like you can't really quite stop it. Until it finally dissipates in its own time. Let your eyes close just at this very end to see if you can feel any residue of that. You can let your eyes open and take your hands and interlace them and bring them up over your head. Take a big yawn through your body and maybe through your mouth and your nose and your sinuses, and stretch over to one side and then stretch over to the other side. Inhale through center, exhale through your mouth as you stretch, and you can do the same kind of leg pattern from our other side shifts, up, letting the pinky side edge of the foot come off the ground. Coming up and exhaling. And exhaling. And just one more time each side. And then coming back to center and letting the arms release. And stepping your feet a little wider apart. Bend the knees and just take easy bounce. And then a little figure 8. Let the bounce go. Shift yourself over to one leg. Let the pelvis turn and then shift over to the other leg. And just gliding side to side. Letting the upper body gently spiral with the pelvis shifting. letting the arms swing nice and easy. Let your eyes travel the space. And just a little while longer, and you can let it grow a little bit larger if that feels good to you, or you can just keep it in the mellow space. And then you can just let that go and walk your feet in closer together, rolling through the feet, pointing the toes down towards the ground, taking this little march. I'm going to go up in tempo and then down in tempo, and you do what you need to do, or you take the invitation and come along with me, and I'll probably have to hold my headset just for your comedic entertainment. So double inhale, double exhale as we are kind of doing this little prance in place. We'll go. Knees a little higher. And then off the ground, any facing, traveling about. Even a little faster. Back to that slower pace, but still bouncing off the ground. Back to on the ground. And resting, close your eyes. And feel the inner sensation, the body. And then let the eyes open and are twirling slow to a bit faster, opening the right foot, go right and then close left, right, left, right, left, right, and then turn the other way, right, left, right, left, right, left, and switch. And you can add the breath. And switch. And switch. Switch. And faster. Go to open, close, open, close, open, close, open, switch. 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 Letting yourself just spin and let your arms float out. You can do this at the intensity that feels right for you this day. One more time, a little faster. Last time, each side. And stopping. If it feels okay, close your eyes and feel that process of disorientation to reorientation. And again, just noticing the residue, or if you right away kind of clear it out and become still. And then you can let your eyes open and take knee circles. Bring your hands down to your knees. Lift your belly a bit to support your spine. Let your low back be curved. And then let your knees rock towards each other and around. And then go the other direction. Bring your knees together and let them go the same direction. 4 times one way and then 4 times the other. Letting your pelvis shift to help you balance. And keeping that scoop in the belly. And then let's do also some ankle circles. So if you have a wall, you can just bring your hands over to the wall because we're going to kind of lean against it. You can also do this with a chair or maybe even your bed, although your bed might be a little too squishy. But I'm going to use a little chair, but also totally fine to do it on the wall. Reaching a little lower just allows you to kind of rock more. So we're going to rock towards our toes, circle the knees around, and then drop the heels. Rock up to the big toe, circle around to the pinky toe, and drop the heels. And just do that 2 more times this direction. And then just go the other direction, circling the knees and the ankles. And then wherever you are, you can step 1 foot back and then the other, and just take a little tread through your feet to open up the calves, the back of your legs. Stepping your feet as far back as you need to get a stretch. And then you can just let that go. And shake out the legs, let it walk around. And last little spinal thing here. Bend your knees and then curl your spine and send your arms forward. Like you're, if we were in the studio together, we'd do counter stretch and we would like hold on to each other and like sit away. Same idea, but actually let your back of your wrists face each other so your arms are kind of spiraled in and you're sitting back. And then you're going to stand up as your arms gather underneath your armpits. They're going to keep circling in front, and they're going to come all the way up, and you're going to lift your chest. So it's like this kind of figure eight. And if you don't get all the details, it doesn't really matter. We're just trying to open the chest, open the spine. Let the arms circle, sit way back, like you're going to sit in a chair. And then reverse that. Standing up tall with the arms circle hands under the armpits. They go forward, and then they're going to carve up overhead. Palms are going to face up. And reach your chest up, and then close it. And let your arms spiral in as you sit back. And then stand up and let your arms spiral out as you reach up. We'll just do one more time. Letting the arms come together, under and through and around. And then you just reverse that and stand up, reaching through the chest. And then letting the arms just come down. Alrighty. So grab, if you need a quick sip of water, and then come towards your computer. As I find my notes. Okay, so Virginia isn't able to come today, and but she should be back tomorrow. And then I just wanted to give a heads up too that Amari had some things come up in their life that was like too much last week and would like to join the group, and we're just trying to decide if it makes sense for them to join tomorrow or on Friday with the lecture and then kind of just start into the new section. But just to give you the heads up about that, that that's what's happening with them. And so there's a couple administrative things, and then we'll talk other things. One is that in past years there has been a Facebook group for the ROAR participants, and this ends up being a place that is like maybe easier for you to communicate, or just like communicate all at once, bulletin style with each other. And I have my own reservations about that platform, yet find it effective for these types of things. So I was wondering if y'all would like me to create a Facebook group, or if someone has a very strong proposal desire to do it somewhere else and create it. Or if you're like, I don't really need a Facebook group, we can just email, it's fine.
I like email. I don't have a Facebook, but I'm like, maybe I need to get one back in my life.
Or one needs to get one back. But how about, are there like people who are like, yes, I want a Facebook group? No one. Amazing. The world is changing.
I enjoy Facebook groups for their function, but I have recently been using something called Notion, which might be a platform that can be easily accessed by everyone without Facebook being involved.
I also have to be on Slack for different things, and I hate it, but I think it's because I'm older, so I don't really understand. It's too overwhelming for me, but I'm also not opposed to creating one of those. I feel like my parents right now. Melby is like, no.
I have the same with Slack, and I'm not pro Facebook, but I have already like 5 email addresses.
Yeah,
So this is sometimes a bit my thing, like not because I'm pro Facebook, but I also don't like it, Grace, if you say you don't have one. I'm also okay with having emails, but I cannot deal with another platform, just saying that. So for me, like sticking with the emails is fine, or Facebook, but not another platform. Sorry, that's too much.
I do have a question. It's just a question that came to my mind. You probably have thought about it before, but since I'm new to in Zoom in this way, I was wondering if it would be an option to keep the thread, the conversation as a place, as a regular place to exchange. I don't know if it's practical or an attractive idea, but because it needs a host, but I don't know.
I think this platform is not so great for that. I mean, it also deletes the chat unless you can turn on a function to save it, and then you also have to like upgrade to do cloud storage things. But what if I just create? We have an email list, and maybe that is fine. But maybe there's also just an email group, like a Google group that's like Roar 2020. So that way, if y'all ever wanted to reach out to each other, or we could, and just say like, hey, this is coming up, or hey, I'm coming through the States, or something, like you could reach out to everyone at once without having to search around for the last email with the group on it. Okay. I keep looking over at you, Ben. You can't tell because I feel like you know a lot about technology, but does a Google group email sound okay?
Google email. I can't say I use that.
Just a group email, just like from the late 90s.
I think that sounds wonderful.
Okay. Chat board. I thought we could set up a chat board, but is that what it's called? Chat room? I don't know. Whatever. So
maybe we can just have a journal and we can mail it to everybody.
Yeah.
We can all write in the journal.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Look at all that.
Right. This makes me so happy. I feel like these conversations can really become a whole meeting, and we're not going to do that. So that's good. Another admin thing, though, speaking of platforms, is that I did create a whiteboard for us at the instigation of my much more facile technology collaborator who uses it. And so I tried it. And I sent out an invitation in an email, and it's called Miro. I think you can just use it through the web. You don't have to get the app. I got the app just because I was like messing around with it. But I'll do a screen share really quick so you can just see it. You can't obviously do anything when I'm screen sharing, but Oops, not my music. And there's actually a whiteboard in Zoom, but I didn't know. I don't know if you can get to it when we're not on it together, so I didn't use it. I used Miro instead. So yeah, this this is the thing. It's, Ben is pointing to things. Thanks, Ben. You do this sometimes, don't you? So this is a tool I learned that's passed down from Liz Lerman, who is an American choreographer that writes books about structures for dance making. And I like it if it's just a thinking structure. Oh, Billy's coming in with a pointer, with a pink pointer. I guess this is what happens in the rest of 2020 digital world. So there's things that I seated in the Y axis and the X axis, or the top row and the side row column. And you could, hi Anna, you could add things either to the column or top row, and then you can also add things in the matrix square. So you could come, Grace, why don't you go into, everyone's there. This is so amazing. I love this. This is, okay. Can you guys see yourselves moving the things around while also doing it? You can't, can you?
Yeah, I can see everything.
You can see the Zoom box and the other box.
Oh, no, I can't see Span.
But I guess if you're in Miro, you can also see people moving things around. So you guys want to add some stuff? See, you just, this is perfect. It's already broken. The system's already broken. You could do exactly what Anna just did. You can draw. You can go into these boxes. Of course, I was using it in kind of the most boring way, / way that, maybe Liz Lerman intended, which is that you could go to an intersection of internet and gender, say, and then you could just brainstorm, anything that comes up when you think about internet and gender. Or maybe different people have to do different things at different times. I'm just going to wait a couple minutes and see if it's possible. So I have just been selecting the type tool. And then going over and typing things. I don't start to move away. Okay. So maybe we just take a couple more minutes here, and if you feel like you want to write anything, always wants to do it in like the tiniest type. Yeah. And if you feel like something is really being missed, I mean, you could add something in the row or the column.
Ellen?
Yes.
You told us already, but could you maybe repeat a bit or say what the structure is about, or where do you get it from?
Yeah. I'm gonna. I'll repeat this while this is happening. So this is a structure that I learned from a choreographer. Will pass down. It's used a bit by like various folks that I work with, and I think it also comes over into people who do like mind maps or like thinking matrices. So in the studio, this is something that we might just put on the wall, and then over the course of the 2 weeks we have together, just add things to it or change it or transform it in different ways. So you can come into any of these boxes, sort of like a multiplication table, if you were to go to like systems and surfaces, and then in that box, just think about where do these two things intersect. So systems and surfaces. I sort of immediately think about like water tables or how water kind of runs through land. I think about the systems of microbes on my skin. Does anybody else want to throw any other idea out there in this particular box? And the thing on one box they oftentimes can go in many boxes, or they might seed the idea for another box. But then maybe you wanted to make a score, and you just decided, or you wanted to make a collage, or you wanted to make a piece, and you just went to one box, and you're like, I'm going to kind of work with the intersection of whatever came up in surfaces and audiences. Uncomfortable chairs, sometimes sitting on the ground, also uncomfortable, sometimes moving around. And then you could do maybe a whole score or an improvisation or something just using these kinds of elements. But you can also use it just to think. Like maybe you come to a box and you're like, I for sure don't want to make a dance that's these things unless I put them in balance with a box from somewhere else on the grid. Does that make sense? So I'm curious, in systems and surfaces would be a nice twist or a nice twist to add somewhere. Someone wrote nervous, and so I think nervous system, and then I'm like, how does nervous relate to surface? And that's just a question that comes up for me. Who wrote that, and would you like to answer that?
Yeah, I wrote nervous. I was just thinking along the same lines of nervous system. And how does it relate to surface?
Mm.
I see it more as an interior thing, like something that influences the surface that of our body, in a sense. If you think about it from an audience point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could think about how the nervous system can be this conduit for surfaces too, in our actual touch. So touch could be nervous, or yeah, you could add touch to it. And Orla, you could also add, like ecology in a box on the edge and see what comes up. Or you could even add rhizome and see what comes up when you let rhizome intersect, like up at the top there in that empty box. When you let rhizome then intersect with all of those things on the side as a way to sort of find associations that might be interesting. So Orla had sent a question about rhizomes, which is a kind of root structure in plants, and also a philosophy. So my thought is that now you have this and you can add to it, come back to it, look at it. Whenever you like, as we're working, or as you move forward into other things even. Or maybe you guys create your own other thinking grids. So I'm going to stop the share for now. Even though I'm gripped, it's a very good performance. So just to see that is there as something to relate to. Before we move into our next activity, I just wanted to have a little check-in about the end of yesterday and working with both the disorientation and the gaze, and then using is gaze the right word? It's gaze, but also focus as a way to work into and out of disorientation. And was just wondering how that was for you. But also, if you have, I have a feeling that other folks have worked with disorientation, perhaps in other ways, and I would love to just hear, maybe we'll say, unless we get into something really juicy, we're not going to talk more than 5 to 10 minutes, just so you know, and then we'll get to the next thing, and we'll keep trying to bring these things back as we go. So yeah, I would just love to hear answers to those questions or anything you have to say about it.
thinking about it during our little spinning exercise today, how we always are able to reorient ourselves every single time. And I feel very lucky, like, to be able to do that physically. Yeah.
I guess my experience with that disorientation comes, like, it makes me think of telescoping vision. I think I learned that in the context of an underscore in contact, and like I just really love that tool because it's such a good feed, and then so much happens from it. Like just like zooming in and zooming out with the nearest far midsight is just like a great way to disorient myself into, like, you know, I found myself never being in a place where I was like, I don't know what to do now, or like, I'm bored. I was never like bored. It feels really fruitful.
Yeah, I felt that telescoping. It felt like that my eye, I could feel like the muscles in my eyes kind of like I was shifting from near to mid, and I was using my hand in front of my face and then a chair behind that, and then an even farther object to sort of avoid moving my head around, so I could just keep my eyes going in the same direction.
Similar to what you're saying. Oh, sorry. Similar to what you're saying, there was like a point where the nearest focus was like on my chest, and all of a sudden I had this like feeling of like, I wonder if this is what like playing VR is like, because it felt like it was someone else's point of view, but just that I was seeing it. It was a really like fun experience.
Sorry, I keep talking. Oh, talking now.
Who's going?
Me, I would like to say, for me, I was really interested in this notion of disorientation and movement, if this is a not knowing of direction, and then also in relation to the text of Sarah Ahmed that you wrote, and in relation to the word disorientation, where there is this piece of this in there, and in etymology, it's not like a non-thing, but it's a not thing, a lack of something, and a being a part of. And this I found really interesting because in my movement vocabulary, I would use disorientation as a way of not knowing, maybe. Sometimes also I have heard disorientation being linked with being lost. And I found this like interesting when you started to read this text of Sarah Ahmed, that you can, this other way of also linking disorientation with this stuff.
The orientation experience was also very strong for me, and I had more challenge with disorientation, because even when I was trying to be disoriented, I felt somehow oriented. Like I feel even my eyes closed where I am in the space, because it's very familiar. So that's when my awareness was shifting to being oriented. I felt multiple orientation of my head, of like every part of my body. Like I'm a sum of a lot of directions and orientations of my hands, my feet, my pelvis, and it was very interesting for me that we were talking about queer theory at the same time as a body practice, also my presence to all my thoughts and the theories at the same time. So it's very interesting.
For me, just to follow up on top of what people have said, I thought about attachment to my orientation. When I was doing this orientation, I felt attached to certain things, and my desire to keep them for a little bit longer, perhaps, or have a certain sense of control. And then I thought about desire, just the desire, and where does that lead, or how does that lead toward, in what direction does that lead? And my orientation towards desire is something that it seems like what I follow. And I also thought about the chaos game that people play sometimes with themselves or each other, and the chaos of that. What does chaos give? And if I think about or experience disorientation as chaos, then perhaps it's being open to many different directions or something. Yeah, I'm wondering about chaos.
What is the chaos game?
The chaos game is when you suddenly do something that is chaotic and everybody has to deal with it or play that game. Something unpredictable and that throws everything up,
All too well. I think this distinction, as a person who I sort of feel like I love to use language, and then I get tired of language and talking, and but this distinction that Melody bring up between the dis and the D is very interesting. So de-orientation versus disorientation, and so yeah, this thing again of like it being not, but I can't remember exactly how you said it. It was perfect though. Not necessarily the opposite of orientation, basically, and that melding with this idea that that you bring up, Manal, of like the orientation of many parts at once. Somehow this knowing that the multiplicity of orientation can be a kind of disorientation if we assume that it's already maybe disrupting a sense of what we might consider orientation to be. And Katya, when you bring up desire, so a little background on this that connects into this is that I read Queer Phenomenology about 3 years after I had done this process with Deborah Hay, and then I was just a couple nights ago reading a book and listening to this lecture that was reminding me how it's in dance right now. So many of us are talking, and in performance are talking about a queering of things, and bringing this queer theory to all of the things that we are doing, our performance, our practice, our and queer theory, if we are sourcing it to sort of this evolution, the queer turn, as they say in theory classes, that was introduced. It was introduced in the 90s. But people like Deborah Hay had been doing her practice since the 60s and 70s. And so these things are already happening in the body. And now we're in this process of understanding them together. But they have, you know, and which also obviously means they were happening 600 years ago as well. And, you know, now we're just, this is our process of knowing these things and them coming together. I feel like I have gone back through 20 years of training with a new lens, and I guess that's part of what happens once you sort of learn a new lens to look through, and an important part of being able to change and transform understanding. But this thing Deborah said to me in this process, Katya, when we were doing, trying to remember, she was saying, she always says this thing about not being seduced by the physical body. I fucking throw that out the window. I'm like, whatever. The physical body, in whatever its limitations, age, configurations, diseased, not diseased, whatever, is amazing. And I like to be seduced by the thought of it. But she has hardcore, like, don't dance around. Like, and so, and she also would say I'm not like that. But it means that when you're practicing with her, the practice is a very quiet thing. And I was like, Deborah, I'm trying to understand what to do with desire in this moment. Like, where does desire feed into your practice and what you want to do? And she just said, desire is too fucking linear. And then she just left it at that. And I mean, I think that maybe that's what started this whole process for me, even though I feel like I've circled back to having a space for desire that is maybe more complicated than what she was saying, is that I want this and I get that. I want this and I try to get that. Is that I'm not doing that. Maybe I'm desiring or something, that DD desire, not trying to anti-desire, but to understand the desire as multiplicitous, many things at once. In a practice it's constantly changing.
Mm.
Yeah. Those are just some thoughts and words about that. And I would love, someone unmuted.
Yeah, it was me. I think it makes me think of what's under the desire, what's underneath it, and the reality, the ecosystem underneath. Yeah.
And in her practice, and this isn't necessarily to be a seminar on Deborah Hay, although there could be many, but her practice is really driven, and is something I find useful to play with and then subvert and then come back to, is to not go underneath, but to allow the questions themselves to be on the surface.
Mm.
So, and that you make this assumption, you make this surface assumption, and you just work with it just to see. And maybe that reveals something about underneath, but you don't try to go underneath.
Mm.
Or that's the way I understand it.
Mm.
I will write this. I'm sorry, I've been missing the chat. Yeah. Okay. So I write, it's Deborah Hay, and some people probably get really tired of hearing about her. Other people have not heard of her at all. Let me see if I have her book right here. This is the first time I've ever taught, and I've had my books nearby. It's very nice. but it's okay. She's got many books. I'll get it out. And they're all kind of meditations on movement and making. So, great. So I wanted to, this is our activity. Well, this is supposed to be one of two. I don't know. The second one, we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to also paste this, but we're going to go outside and we're going to take a walk. And we're going to take an agendaless walk. And we would normally do this with another person, but now we're going to do this with ourselves, which in some ways is better for this exercise. So the only thing, because I want us to come back together, is that there are a couple orientations. There's one that we're going to come back together, so that's already orienting you in some way. And then the second is that you might need a timer of some sort. And I would say that you might want to set it for halfway through the time, but I also don't know where you're going to be. So if I'm going out, I'm going to set it for about halfway through and then just see where I am at. And then maybe set another one for 5 minutes before we need to be back. Hopefully that's possible. Hopefully you all have timers of some sort. So as you're walking, I want you to work with the practice of bringing yourself into the present of each decision of where you turn. So at every intersection, see if you can make a decision about which way to go based on where you are in that moment and not your plans for going somewhere. You can pause at any time and you could stop. You could do many things. I would say don't take a notebook. Think about the archival process is happening as you're doing it. And that you already have this orientation that we're going to come back together and metabolize it in some way. So you can follow your present moment desire, and you can notice the pressure that is exerted onto you by certain physical surfaces and how they intermingle with your surfaces of your own experience or memory or knowledge or assumptions. And you can try to go with the flow, and you can try to go against the flow or in multiple flows. You could also notice the orientations and desires of others as traces of things that you witness. You can try to sense the orientations and desires of non-human entities. And you can bring back a souvenir or two if you would like, as long as you ask permission from its source if you need to, or if you decide you're going to return it. Of course, you could pick up some trash or whatever, that's fine, but if you decide you're going to pick up a particular maybe rock or pine cone or something, you have a moment of being with that thing and seeing if it's okay to take it.
Shannon.
Yeah.
There's a line about representing the desires of something or someone on the walk. It's like representing the desires of a non-human entity or something.
I said you can notice the orientations and desires of others. And you can try to sense the orientation and desires of non-human beings. So I'll read this again. If you're ready to go, you just go. I'm going to paste this into the chat. You could also, I don't know, decide that you're going to read it from the chat to yourself on your phone or something and take it with you. but it's not that important. Like, you don't have to have all these words just so they're helpful. So let me just do the pasting real quick, and then I come back to this. I apologize for the typos. So I'm thinking about 45 minutes for this, but we're going to come back in an hour. So that gives you also time if you do actually get lost or if you just want to come back and take a break and eat a snack, drink some water, or if you want to play on the thinking grid, you could also do that. So I'll read it one more time. Take a walk. Practice at bringing yourself into the present moment of each decision. At every intersection, see if you can make a decision about which way to go based on where you are, not your plans for going somewhere. You may pause at any time. Don't take a notebook. There is the knowledge that we'll come back together, but you don't need to interrupt the flow of your moving through space with writing in your notebook. You can follow your present moment desire. You can notice the pressure that is exerted onto you by certain physical surfaces and non-physical surfaces, and how they intermingle with the surfaces of your memory, knowledge, assumptions. You can try to go with the flow and going against the flow. You can see if you influence or shift the space. That's something I didn't say. You can see what pressure you exert. You can notice the orientations and desires of others as traces of things you witness. You can try to sense the orientation and desires of non-human beings. You can bring back souvenirs, again, so long as you ask permission or decide that you will return it. And we'll meet back at 12:30 my time, so 30 minutes after, wherever you are. And I'll hang out for a moment if anyone has questions.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I hope it's not raining. Okay. I was like, I know it might be cold and dark in some places. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, it is cold and dark.
Under the desire, there is, under the fixation, there's real life. There is making choices based on day to day. There is depth in making choices. There is my needs and wants. Just saying yes to other things. There is texture. There's life. Possibilities, choices.